there's two brothers, Calvin and Will, that were my first customers. I mean, and one night we were playing, and I just said, why do we love this game so much? And Calvin said, well, it's because it's different every single time we play. Been a great part of this community from day one. And she has just stood by me through everything. I can still tell you how bad it is and how wonderful she is. About, 4 or 5 months ago, she said, Jason, married people do things together. You know that, right? Oh, that's a terrifying thought, but it'd be easier for them, right? All we do is buy IPs and print products.
I think the first thing, though, I wanted to ask you about was how you started the business, like how that came to be, like your journey, I guess, into it.
Yeah, it's honestly my D&D group. I have this triple wide trailer, I guess is what it is. And we play D&D in here and use it as storage. And one night they said, you should open up a game shop. And I had a situation with another business I was working with that was very personal that fell apart. And in the grief of that, I just started remodeling this building and the trailer to be able to open a game store about 10 years earlier than I planned, because I planned on doing it for retirement, and it happened way faster than I planned. And it's been great. The Emmett community that I'm in, a whole bunch of awesome people and way more gamers than I thought that we had. And we have people that'll travel from what we call over the hill, because we have a hill that comes into our valley, and they'll travel from the Boise area and come play, because we have a great environment, a lot of really just super kind gamers. But that's how the store started going. And then I was so fortunate that I owned the building because I don't have to pay rent. And my other job let me finance the build. And then my wife, bless her heart, I worked 8 o'clock till 11 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock in the evening every day, launching this thing. And she just let me. She was awesome. So we started out 4.5 years ago, and it's just been great. It's been wonderful. I wish I could be here. Wish I didn't have my other jobs, because I love this place. So,
do you think you'll ever get to do it like completely, like full time? Like, I know you have the other jobs to support it. Do you think is that something that you see in the plans?
Absolutely. Don't tell my boss, who will probably watch this, because he's also one of our customers. So he'll probably see this, but yeah, he knows that eventually my goal is to be able to be here full time. I have great support. I have great coworkers that help me out, and we do a little bit online, but most of our business is definitely in store. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the day where I don't have 3 jobs, where I just have, one. That'll be good.
Are your days like, I guess it's like 24/7 trying to manage all that, I'd imagine?
Yeah. I volunteer principal at a homeschool co-op. I serve as a hiring manager for a company. So I recruit people, right? And I do that. Those two take me about 34 hours a week. And then you have my store on top of that, which is another at least 20, but typically more than that. Thankfully, like I said, I have great coworkers that support me, being able to come here. And some days I can just come game, which is great.
So outside of D&D, is there any other games you play, like when you do have the opportunity to play?
Oh yeah, Magic the Gathering is definitely my favorite game. Competitive game. D&D is my favorite co-op game. And yeah, we play Commanders, the format, of course, that's most popular. So we play a lot of Commander and HeroScape. Tabletop combat HeroScape is my favorite. So we'll play that too.
Okay. And you said you started the store 4 years ago?
Yes. June was our 4-year anniversary.
That's great. How did you come up with the name?
Well, my last name's Hill, and I like Lord of the Rings. Underhill.
Isn't that what Aragorn's character, I think, like how Sam and Frodo interpreted him to be, like that was like the rumor that his last name was Underhill?
No, it was Frodo's like fake name when he went to the inn at Bree. and they asked for his name, and he
Oh,
gave
that's right.
Underhill. Yeah, so Mr. Underhill. So that's how the name came about.
That's right. It's been a while since I've seen the Fellowship of the Ring, so that's a great like connotation, like matching the two together. I like it. So where, Jason, in Idaho are you guys particularly?
So we're in Emmett. We're about 45 minutes from the Treasure Valley. We're Boise. Everybody knows the only city people know in Idaho is Boise. So we're about 45 minutes from Boise. And it's a small bedroom town where most of us work over in the Boise area. And it's a great town. I love being here. I love having a shop here. I grew up here, of course. I didn't like it when I was growing up here. But as soon as my wife and I decided to have kids, we came back here and have not regretted it. It's been a great choice. So.
What was it like when you were, since 4 years is a decent amount of time in terms of length, but it allows you to remember the beginnings of it at first. How did you go about, picking a spot, finding the location? Like, how did all that come to be? And because I know there's a lot of work involved in the beginning, and the work doesn't end even when you have it. How did that all begin?
So the building I owned, so that was the easy pick, right? And
Of course.
it was set up originally to be a Christian school, so it just had big rooms, two big rooms, and then three or four smaller rooms. So I just changed the classrooms, one side into retail, one side into the gaming side, and it's been a lot of remodeling. And outside has been challenging because it is a playground or a field outside, so people kind of don't know what to expect. But inside, we've done a ton of work, and it's slot wall everywhere on the retail side, and looks really good. And the amount of remodeling has been extreme. I don't know how else to say that. I've put tens of thousands of dollars just in the physical structure. Like the roof was leaking, so to fix that was $6,000. Air conditioner went out, that's another $5,000. You just go down the list of things that happen. This is an old building. I mean, it's 30 years old. So, but as far as the location, I had no choice because it's the only one I owned. And there's been a couple of gaming shops in Emmett before, and they just couldn't handle the rent and get the business rolling. Retail typically takes about 3 years before you can break even,
Mm-hmm.
And I just been blessed to be able to have that opportunity where I had this other job. I had a wife supporting me to do all this remodel work, which I suck at, by the way. I am the least handy guy on the planet. So I seriously think God sent me angels to keep me from killing myself.
Oh, gosh.
And and the community has just been incredible. I mean, they love to support it. I'll have people, of course, that I know from my other walks of life that will come in and support, but just the gaming community has been incredible. And yeah, I think that answers your question.
How did you get into the position to buy the building? Because I know in a lot of cases, a lot of stores will pay the rent for the space. How did you get that opportunity?
Well, I guess you call me privileged because my parents gave it to me.
Oh, okay. So it was your parents owned it then first?
Yeah. Yeah, they started the Christian school back in 1980.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And when my mom passed away, I took over the school. I ran it for 11 years, I think it was. And then when we moved it from this location to a church, so this building was literally just storage and just falling apart until we moved the store in. So it's been a ton of work.
And now, since you're in a rural area where your store is, how does that play in terms of getting the name out about the store, or, does it limit, say, maybe because I know a lot of stores like to go to conventions and whatnot. How do you fit those types of things together to grow the player base?
Well, with my current schedule, going to conventions is a luxury I don't have right now.
Right.
I wish I did. But the social media has been a great tool for me. And in a small town like this, word of mouth is generally your best advertising. So there's a lot of Facebook pages that reach all kinds of different demographics within the area. So I'll use those as much as I can, and that's it. That's worked well for me, is word of mouth and social media.
That's one of the things I've always loved hearing about the small towns is that word of mouth really goes, it spreads far, to say maybe more of a populated area where, you're competing against other businesses. Everybody's got a marquee, everybody's got a sign or something like that to draw people in. Everybody's using social media. But in the small towns, that word of mouth seems to work out really well.
Absolutely.
So when you look at the player base, I know you've commended the player base of how kind the people are there, and just how that adds to the whole game store feel. How do you see the games of interest in terms of like your area? I know Commander is obviously very popular. You had mentioned that a little earlier. What other games outside of Magic come to like the Idaho area that you see as being popular?
Oh, definitely Warhammer 40K is popular. The D&D is still played a little bit. Pokemon is good. I think this is the truth of Pokemon everywhere. Sales are good. Player base is pretty small. And I sell about everything: board games, Yu-Gi-Oh, all kinds of TCGs. And as far as in the shop community, I'm trying to build up the Flesh and Blood community is my next goal as far as player base goes. But right now, Magic, Warhammer are definitely my two most active player groups. And then HeroScape would be third.
Okay. And how do you know when to bring in a new game? Like, because you mentioned, you said One Piece, I think?
I sell One Piece. Flesh and Blood is the next. Well, it's customers, right? They come in and ask me, hey, do you have play nights for these games? And I'll say, no, do you want to start one? And that's how it rolls out. So right now I have I have 3 or 4 players interested in starting Flesh and Blood, and we'll get that rolling next.
That's cool. That's how you know the store is doing well too. When you've got that community engagement, that helps a lot.
Big time.
And so when you're looking at, what's working for the store or what doesn't work, what would you say right now is something that's been working really well that you've implemented?
That is I think continually investing a lot of time in communication. So I do a physical calendar. I do a calendar on Instagram. I do a calendar on Facebook. I do a calendar on our website, and do a calendar with Wizards Play Network. So there's a lot of different calendars happening, but that communication really helps people know what's going on, lets them know what to expect when they come in. What doesn't work is, like, I just figured out, like, I put an event on the calendar, say for a new board game, and if there's no support for it, then I know, okay, not doing that again. That's essentially how I work it, is through communication and scheduling.
Because sometimes, when you realize something didn't work, it could be like a big hit financially. How do you offset that? Is it mostly, I know this is oversimplifying it, but is it like, say, the success of where Magic or Pokemon is at that help offset the cost when you try something new? Or is there a different approach that you take? Or is it just like not ordering as much when you're trying to find out if this new product, for example, would work?
Yes. Yeah. I'll give you a great example. So HeroScape is my game. I love HeroScape. I've always loved HeroScape. And when they came out with a new series, I'm all in, right? And, well, my community in HeroScape isn't as big as I would like it to be, so I have a lot of overstock on that. And the way I typically deal with that is I'll do clearance just to get some cash flow off a product like that. So for this Christmas, for all my HeroScape people are going to be getting a great deal on my overstock on HeroScape. And then, on your base games, whatever it is for you. For me, it's those 3. It's Magic, Pokemon, Warhammer. Those keep the cash flow going, so you can fail, I guess you could say, on a couple of items. But the key to retail is to control your inventory management is how you control your profit rate. So yeah, so you start out slow. Like Gundam right now is a card game that's popular, and I haven't had my community ask me about it once. So I'm very tentative about ordering, 50 boxes or anything like that. So I'm very careful about what I order on a new try. It's and board games for millennials, the millennial generation were super popular 10 years ago or so, and that's all dropped off now. So board games have to be, I typically go with the core groups, right? Like puzzle games or escape rooms, traditional board games with, Monopoly does 5 million different versions, right? So just
Mhm.
carry a wide range of monopolies, and then a smattering of everything else just to give a good feel. Like Axis and Allies has a lot, so carry some of those. So it's yeah, with retail you got to be really careful when you are testing the waters on a new product to not go over what your cash flow can support.
That's very sound business advice too. Do you, when you look at, the player base and, the gaming community at large, what is like one story that you could share that stands out from your 4 years that you've been running the store for, something that's been always has stuck with you?
Oh, you mean like from my customers?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Oh,
always like hearing these.
oh man, there's so many. I think one of the ones that I remember is, we were playing Magic one night, and there's two brothers, Calvin and Will, that were my first customers. I mean, I cannot believe their mom dropped them off because we're talking this double wide trailer in the middle of a field. I had like construction piled up in the middle of the floor. I had sawhorses out with software. Like, we're talking this not even ready to open yet. And she drops these two guys off, and those two have been a part of this community, well, until today. Calvin is going to leave on his mission for a couple of years today. So, but those two, and one night we were playing, and I just said, why do we love this game so much? And Calvin said, well, it's because it's different every single time we play. We never know what strategies are going to play out, and it's unique every single time you play it. So that's one of my favorite stories is those two guys. They've been a great part of this community from day one. So
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing, the people that have been with you since the very beginning and, continue to support and throughout that. That's just phenomenal.
I said that without crying too. I'm pretty proud of myself.
I didn't
I'm
even
an emotional guy.
I didn't even expect to see any tears or anything. You held your composure great.
Yeah, I think the Marine Corps gave me like drugs or something because now I'm really emotional now. So I don't know. But yeah, no, those, and like I said, I have great coworkers, and it's been I cannot complain about this. It's just been a great experience all around, and I can't wait to keep going forward.
I love hearing that, Jason. I mean, are you running the store by yourself, or do you have other employees or anything? Because I know you got in total 3 jobs, but do you have other employees helping you out, like while you're doing the other things?
Yeah, I have a coworker who's really good at Magic, thankfully, and he's also my judge, so that works out. So
Awesome.
he will come in and work. He works more than me in the shop. Actually, he works a couple days a week, and then I'll work one. We're only open 3 days a week right now, so and I'll work the other day. But he's awesome. Without him, I'd be in trouble. So
One of the things I was thinking of, when you were talking about, your customers there in the previous segment, I was thinking about playing Magic when I was younger did for me at that point in time. And it was, going to the game store like on a Saturday, like the day we're recording this, and I'd be there literally all day. And unfortunately, I can't do that anymore. But thinking back to that time and, getting into Magic for the first time, coming from Yu-Gi-Oh when I was, I think, in 11th grade, I remember just the way how I was so blown away with Magic. Just like there was nothing like it, and I think it's what draws so many people to it. And when I fast forward now to today, it'll always be, in my opinion, like the best game ever made. I've always loved it, but a lot of it for me has changed purely from the area of, as much as I like, I loved the Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond set. Universes Beyond for me has felt a little non-magic-y, I guess. I'm curious from a store standpoint, and then from also your personal standpoint, loving Magic, like you said. I'm curious what your take is on the whole Universes Beyond thing.
Well, right now it's getting a lot of bad, press on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think my customers have enjoyed it for the most part. It's been a lot of fun. I got a lot of people looking forward to the Turtle set and the Avatar set. And Spider-Man here was actually really well received until the social media negativity started, and then it kind of petered out. But the way Magic works is as soon as people start playing a card or two competitively, then the set tends to get going. Aether Drift was within Universe set that had maybe two good cards that people are playing competitively. So it's really been worse for me than Universes Beyond. So my community loves it. I think it's a lot of fun. So we just roll with it. And plus the power creep that Wizards does in the Universes Beyond sets kind of makes you get at least a little bit of it. Like in Spider-Man, they did the first Soul Stone, the first Infinity Stone for that. So eventually they're going to do all five. They'll do the Thanos, the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos, I'm sure. And you'll be able to put together a game-winning combo, I'm sure, off of all of that. I hope, anyway. So Spider-Man's always going to be run by that card, right?
Right.
Because people are always, but as far as Universes Beyond go, I get it because I'm a little tired of paying this much money for a product myself.
I was going to say it must be more for you as well.
Yeah, well, just as a consumer, I'm like, man, $7 for a pack of cards, that's a little high, right?
Right.
And yeah, on my end, what I don't like is right now the allocations with product with Wizards is really challenging to work around. All of us, every store across the country is ordering probably 300% more than they can actually sell in the hopes of getting more allocation. And if they ever fill all orders, we're going to be in trouble. I'll say it that way. But that's been the hardest part as far as Universes Beyond go, honestly, for me, is the allocation limitations.
Before Universes Beyond became a thing, were allocations still difficult with the insets, like the worlds that Magic creates? Were those as difficult to get allocation for, or is it just something new that you've started to see? Because I've been hearing exactly what you were referring to, and I'm curious if you started to see that more with Universes Beyond, or if you also saw it with the insets.
So I'm kind of conspiratorial about this because Fallout, if I remember right, I got all my initial order. No problem. And then Lord of the Rings, all my initial order pretty much. I think maybe I couldn't reorder it, immediately. And then all of a sudden we're getting these heavy allocations. So I think it's probably Wizards creating scarcity themselves, but that's just me being conspiratorial. So I do understand. I think they print a year and a half in advance. And the way the timeline works from my perspective is Assassin's Creed flopped because they didn't do it right. Mm-hmm. And so when that flopped, they're printing Final Fantasy, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're going, okay, well, we're not going to overprint this at all because we still have all of these boxes of Assassin's Creed sitting on pallets. This is my guess. I have no idea. I'm not an insider at all. I live in Emmett, Idaho. I know no one. So I'm guessing that Final Fantasy actually did have a low print run because of Assassin's Creed's flopping. And we're still working through that. So I'm curious to see what'll happen with Wizards. It's the most interesting thing in the world to have a company that sells a product that has collectible value that they can sell on Amazon. It's like,
Right.
how do I compete with this?
I know that's like the near impossibility to compete with somebody, from a brick and mortar level to somebody who could just put it in a warehouse with that overhead that you have in addition to employees and electricity and all that. They have the volume that they could push out to keep the costs much lower. So yeah, that's a very hard barrier to overcome.
Yeah, and that's why the community is so important. To build up your community is the number one way to success, I think, for LGS. So
I agree. Yeah, definitely. And it's funny when you were mentioning some of the Universes Beyond sets. Lord of the Rings, Spider-Man. What's crazy to me, and this is what I can't figure out as a consumer myself. I've always had the goal of collecting every original. I have a ton of them. The original 700 comics of Amazing Spider-Man. Spider-Man's always been my favorite Marvel character, but when the set for Spider-Man with Magic came out, Magic being my favorite game, I didn't have that same reaction to it, like you would think somebody who likes both properties would. But then the thing, I hear people saying, which makes sense to me, and it adds up why I like Lord of the Rings. I think what people are having problems with is the genre mismatch.
Yeah.
Magic being fantasy, Lord of the Rings is fantasy, so those go together. But Spider-Man and Magic have that like contrasting worlds, and I'm wondering if you feel that that's the same thing. I know you've said you've seen success with it at your store, which is great to hear. I'm just curious if you think at the larger scale that's where the main disconnect is from.
Oh yeah, I think that is part of it, and also Spider-Man in particular was very rushed. There were things that didn't make sense in the set. It was supposed to be like a introductory set, and then they wanted to make something else out of it, so they made it into a bigger set really quickly. And I think that there were mistakes that were made in there. And I agree. Yeah, I wonder if they wouldn't have done better if they would have taken their Universes Beyond comic book stuff like Turtles, Spider-Man, Marvel, DC, and just done a separate format and same rules, same stuff, and just say it's not legal in regular Magic and just start a whole nother field of TCG. I wonder if they wouldn't financially long-term end up doing better if they did something like that. Because what I want to do as a collector, I want everything, right? And that's what Magic has been able, and Pokemon, we've been able to do that until very recently, where they're putting out a lot of product. We've been able to get every set, at least a big portion of every set, because the time between the releases was long enough. We could financially handle it, and we could, we used to be able to, you buy one Magic release for what, 4 months before the next one?
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah. And now that's way harder to do. And Magic Wizard's response to that is, well, just buy what you want. And I'm like, that's not how collectors' minds work. We don't work that way. We want everything because we're collectors. So I do think maybe they're missing the mark a little bit. And if they would have done a totally separate, like MCU / comic book, I guess you could say non-fantasy track, I wonder if they wouldn't have done better. I wonder if they wouldn't have grabbed Magic players and a whole bunch of other players to go, oh, so I don't have to hop into the whole Magic universe. I can just hop into this universe. But who knows? They didn't do it that way, so who knows?
Jason, I've thought the same thing. I was driving the other day, and this was actually going through my head. I was like, I wonder if this wasn't in, like say standard, for example, which seems to be a consensus somewhat of what people aren't a fan of, that, all those cards are legal in there. And then I was like, oh, if there was a separate format, maybe like you mentioned, that seems like it would be a good idea, but not that I can remember or anything, but for some reason, I think this question was potentially posed to Mark Rosewater at one point. And I'm not sure, I forget what the outcome of it was. But I've wondered that myself. So I'm agreeing with you. Like it's something that's crossed my mind as well. And I wonder if it's maybe not something they see as feasible.
Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes, I'm old, right? I've been in retail a long time. I started in retail when I was 16. I opened up my first comic store when I was 19. No, I was 20, and had a successful comic store for 6 years. So I've been in retail quite a bit, and in this the nerd environment, I guess you could say, for most of it. And some of these companies, I'm not sure their own echo chamber doesn't destroy their ability to make money. And they're also the quarterly goal is what they're looking at when I'm looking at 5-year goals, right? And it's like I think they might be wiser to look at longer term financial gain over the quarterly gain, but that's just not how our system's set up right
Yeah.
now. So I get it. I mean, you can't criticize corporations for being corporations. They're going to do corporation things, right? And I don't like them all the time, but sometimes I wonder if they don't just grab things instead of thinking about what's the long-term impact of this for us financially. And I don't have a way to fix it, right? So yeah. So I wonder, and sometimes, I mean, if you and I sat down and brainstormed about ways to make more money for Wizards, we'd come up with better ideas than what they're doing.
I think so. I mean, you and I are in lockstep with this. Like you know, my undergrad degree, even though I work in technology now, was in management. And my initial, like when I try to put the like quote unquote business hat on, my first thought was I would always look at running a business from a long-term perspective instead of short-term. Like instead of just getting those profits up front. I get it though, when you're beholden, you have shareholders, you have other things to think about, and your job as a CEO rests on satisfying what the quarterly goals are. I completely get that. And I don't fault them for it either. But like for my own business brain, when I put that hat on, my thought would be like, how can I extend that money over a longer period of time rather than the short term? And is that short term decision going to affect the game in a negative light rather than looking at it from a lens of, I want this game to last forever. And how do I look at that from a long-term perspective? That's always been my viewpoint on it. And it seems like to be very similar to how you're describing it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Quick break from this podcast to talk about our sponsor, Cardboard Shuffle. Cardboard Shuffle was our 10th podcast interview here at the Match Slip with store owner Mark. Mark has expanded his brand and has produced his own card sleeves called Shuffle Shields. Shuffle Shields come in packs of 100 premium matte card sleeves for standard size trading cards. They contain no PVC and are acid-free. I have 17 packs of Shuffle Shields card sleeves to give away to listeners of the podcast. You'll need to send a screenshot that you're following Cardboard Shuffle on Facebook to frank@thematchslip.com.
Do you think it's one of those things where Magic is going to, when you look at the lineup for next year, do you think it's going to be one of those things where Magic is at some point, and I know this is a stretch, but not going to have insets and it's mostly just going to be Universes Beyond? That's just kind of been the, the thing clawing at me.
Wow. Oh, man.
Maybe not short term.
I would prefer to see them get good writers and rebuild their universe.
Me too.
The lore people don't even care anymore because it's been so average. But that's a terrifying thought. But it'd be easier for them, right? All we do is buy IPs and print products. We don't have anything else. That'd be easier for them. That's interesting to think about. I think looking at next year, though, the Edge of Eternities for them, brilliant. Just a brilliant idea to launch into Star Trek and Star Wars. Because now everybody can go, oh, well, Edge of Eternities was sci-fi, so now we have Star Trek and Star Wars that are sci-fi. And I'm sure I hope they're going to do Star Wars actually in 2027. But Star Trek, I'm expecting a lot of interest on, so.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it is one of those things where, like you said, what's the easiest for them? And that was kind of one of the things that made me start to think about that. I was like, well, as much as I would love to see them like go back to the past and let's do Mirrodin, Darksteel, let's do like those old Kamigawa. Like, I know they did Kamigawa, but like let's do some of the old stuff again. If they can't think of an idea for a new world to build within their own universe. But when it almost felt like to me, like, I know Ether Drift seemed to have some backlash because it was cars, and it started to cross my mind, and, hearing what other people were saying, I was like, I wonder if they're looking at this thinking, well, we're making a lot of money from it, and, if people weren't buying it, that would be one thing, but people are. And this is saving us from having to brainstorm our own. And I don't think, like I mentioned, I don't think it's going to happen in the short term that they're going to be like, no more in New Universes sets. And I think they'll always sprinkle them. I just have had this, and I don't, it's poorly in my gut, but I've had this sneaky feeling like, I wonder if 10 years from now, if you and I record this podcast in 10 years and we're like, there's only one in-universe set a year, but there are 5 other universes beyond. I just wonder how that would be, from a game store standpoint, in terms of, because obviously if Wizards is paying licensing costs for the product to be able to produce it, that's going to increase for the game stores then to buy it, as opposed to, they create their own thing. There is no licensor agreements in place. So I'm just, because I'm kind of like spitballing here, thinking about how that would affect things from your standpoint, like how you would have to then approach it.
Boy, I don't know. That's actually terrifying. I think we would see a new TCG take over, honestly.
I truly hope it never comes to that. But that's like one of the things, like I said, if I'm thinking this, I was like, I can imagine game store owners must be well ahead of me with this, like, because you guys are seeing like the info come in, and you have your own internal processes for the balance sheet and whatnot, so what works and what doesn't. And so when I'm seeing this just as a consumer, I'm like, and then you have people online, and people are always louder online, but you see them talking about like quote unquote, this isn't Magic to me, that phrase you hear. And that's something I don't think you or I have ever said before. Magic is always talked about, and, this is the best game, it's got the competitive nature to it, the rise of Commander and everything. So it's just a interesting shift almost that they've been doing lately.
Yeah, it is. I honestly had never thought about replacing in-universe. Oh man, that's a lot. I've not thought about that. Seriously, Frank, oh man. So I think that's an alarming thought, and it would be simpler for them. They have more ways to sneak in higher profit margin if they did that. Boy, that could be a problem. I don't know. I don't want to borrow that trouble. Let's just say that they don't do it. All right.
Right. Yeah. Let's hope that it doesn't go that route.
Or if they do, they do a separation, right? Where they have different competitive track, a different, change the name of Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond to something else. That would be better. I would hate
almost
to
like an offshoot product line. Like this is a separate channel for those products.
That's kind of breaking my heart. I would hate to see the universe collapse because there's so much fun in it, and let's just hope that doesn't happen. But boy,
that's my hope. It's just something that's been gnawing at like the back of my, like running down my spine. I was like, and because what made me think about that is I would say maybe a year or so ago, maybe it's not even a year. I'm not entirely sure, but I got back into collecting Pokemon, not playing the game. I've always just played Magic, but I started collecting the cards again, and more so the vintage cards and the stuff from the Scarlet and Violet 151 set, because I really only collect the original Pokemon. And I then thought of what drove me to do this. And because I never was thinking about Pokemon while I was so engulfed in Magic. And I remember there was one point in time, Jason, I would buy a standard booster box of every set because I loved opening packs like we all do. I loved building up the binder for stuff to trade in, to get stuff I want for the decks I wanted to make. And that started to stop. And then I was being very selective of what I was buying. And then I started following a YouTuber, Deep Pocket Monster. He does the Pokemon challenges, and I knew him from when I used to do a business podcast. And that got me back into Pokemon. And I realized I've started to go towards that a lot more. And so the only thing I was able to think of is Magic wasn't giving me the same feel that it once did for the inter-universe stuff. So that's how that all kind of manifested itself, at least from my own perspective. And I'm wondering if from the game store side, if you've seen anything similar, like have you seen Magic players collecting Pokemon or anything like that? Or do you see it mostly sticking to the same, to like almost people staying in their like lane for their game that they just stick to?
Well, Idaho is generally 5 to 10 years behind the rest of the world. So that is something to consider in this. But what I have seen is pretty much staying in their lane with a little bit of everybody diverting from that periodically. Like, like every now and then a Pokemon customer will buy a collector's box of Magic. Every now and then a One Piece customer will buy a EX box of Pokemon. So but mostly staying in their lane. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I see. I think what happens a lot of the times with product is, and this happened in my generation too, it happened with action figures in my generation. We get into our 30s, early 40s, typically have more disposable income, and then want to go back to our childhood. So people in their 30s and early 40s right now want to get Pokemon because they had some experience with that in their childhood. And that's what I'm mostly seeing, is that demographic that's getting more disposable income. Go back and get things. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the action figure craze of the late 90s and early 2000s, like Marlin toys and stuff like that. And that's pretty much over now, right? It's pretty much calmed down. But at the time, I mean, it was the thing. People beating each other up in Toys R Us, So yeah, so I think most of the time it's just that disposable income happens with childhood memories. But with your particular situation, I have not heard anybody say that before, but it does make sense too, where it's kind of like, well, I'm getting disenchanted with this product, so this product makes me feel good, right? Like I love Pokemon's easy because artwork's awesome.
Yeah,
the cards are. I mean, that company does an incredible job on their cards.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of good memories of watching that show when I was a kid.
Yep.
And it all just works together. So I think that's mostly what happens. And then, Yu-Gi-Oh! I have a solid core of Yu-Gi-Oh! Guys that they just love it. They love the game. They love the animated show.
That's how it started.
Yeah, it's well, the way the show and the game work together is really cool.
Yeah.
Right? One of the best ones for that. So
that's what always impressed me with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is you could be a player of the game, and I don't play it anymore, but the overlap between the show and the game, they did such a great job, I always felt, with that immersion factor.
Yeah.
Magic, I know, has never had that. They've tried multiple times. Pokemon was a show, but they didn't do anything with the cards the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Does. And I always thought that was a very well executed thing that Yu-Gi-Oh! Did to increase their player base.
Yeah. Yep. That's all those games are a lot of fun. So, man, you got me nervous thinking about the universes beyond now. So ask me another question. Distract me.
Well, what's funny though is that I would still never get rid of my Magic cards for anything. Like that still always is something. And you know what, the other area of it too, which is because where I live, property taxes and rent is so high on Long Island, and we, unless the store has been here a long time, we see stores come and go. And I've unfortunately, growing up, the store I mentioned earlier in the podcast that I went to all the time, I remember going there as a kid. I must have been 17, driving there on a Saturday, and the store was gone. And so I didn't have a store to play Magic at. until I was in my early 20s. And so I went quite a while without playing. And then, the store that I was going to in my early 20s, a lot of people that worked there left. And so it didn't feel like the same place. Went to another store. They were going to get a larger location. And, I haven't heard anything on that since. So for me, I haven't had many places to play. I can really only go to a store to buy product at, and I got to travel about sometimes half hour, 40 minutes away to do that. And so that could also play in a factor for me as well, is that in addition to maybe for me some of the products being different that I'm not accustomed to, probably the lack of having like a game store, like if I lived near you and I could drive around the corner to go to something closer, that would maybe probably change it for me. But I think the two things combined is probably what shaped my, perspective on the whole situation.
No, I'm glad. It will make me think about it. Make me be careful with my ordering. So,
yeah, no, I don't say it for you to not, do things as you're doing it. You're in it, like you mentioned, you're in a different part of the country than I am. But, I don't think it's something that would happen anytime soon. Just something that had crossed my mind that I was like, I hope this isn't the way they're going.
Yeah, and again, if they just reboot their universe and hire good writers, I think they would. Yep. I think they'd explode again. So, and I also think Wizards should do a no reveal set where they don't give out any previews of the cards, and make it be good, right? Make it not suck. And I think that set they would make so much money if they did that.
Without a doubt. That's why I think Mystery Booster was such a great idea.
Yep.
I love that product. But on a different note, and this is not to make you cry, but I wanted to ask you, how important your wife's support has been through doing this. Because I mean, you're a good man, Jason. You've been doing quite, you have 3 jobs, you're doing quite a bit. And I can only imagine having the support of your wife, how important that is. It's funny because I was thinking about this morning. I was looking, I forget what I was looking at, but something on Facebook, and the wife was saying that her husband, kind of the switch of your situation, her husband was very supportive in her pursuing, a business that she wanted to do. And it just made me think of how important that is when you're venturing into sometimes unknown territory. You're juggling multiple things at once. So I'm curious from your standpoint with doing the business and your other things, how important has your wife's support been through this?
Oh man, she has been incredible. So we met at a Marine Corps birthday ball, and so I always tell people our relationship was based on beer and dancing, which is not our typical thing. I was an alcoholic when we met, so she married a frat boy, basically just a drunk guy all the time. And at the time, I did own my comic store, and so she thought she was marrying a fairly normal guy, right? Where I was going to go to work at my comic store, come home, drink myself to sleep, and then we would get up and do it again. And when she got pregnant we have twins, we have a boy and a girl, and I had quit drinking prior to that because, well, it was related to PTSD, and I couldn't sleep, so I drank. It was pretty bad, which led me down a road to a lot of other addictions, a lot of other negative coping mechanisms for life, right? Like taking her for granted, not being careful with her, and thankfully, I am a Christian now. The Lord really got me. I don't know how he did it, honestly, to this day. I had a blackout that I don't recall what I did, but I had my friends tell me, so it wasn't good. That was it. I quit drinking. I wasn't really a Christian at that point, and drank a lot of water, I remember, for a couple of weeks, like literally 2 or 3 gallons of water a day. Don't know how I did that either. And then then we had kids, and I went into ministry. So there's my wife. She married a drunk. And here I am going, okay, no, now you got to be a minister's wife. So she's like, I am not. That was challenging, and she stayed with me through all of that. I serve kids in ministry, so I still love serving young people. I still do that as a volunteer at a co-op, and she has just stood by me through everything. I'll still tell you how bad it is and how wonderful she is. About, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, she said, Jason, married people do things together. You know that, right? And I'm like, okay, I got to rearrange my life because how dare I not value this incredible human that has stood by me through every kind of life change you can imagine, right? And she's trusted me through everything. And when my business, basically that school I was running fell apart for various reasons, and I grieved by putting this place together, right? And her response to that was to just be there. She was just solid the whole time. She got frustrated sometimes. Again, I was working 15, 16 hours a day, but she, which wasn't much sleep, so you know what that meant. Crabby. I was crabby.
Right.
But she has stood by me through all of that, and she has, she's not a nerd at all. She doesn't get any of this stuff. And she'll let me come over here and game for a day. She does have expectations of my time, which I try to keep. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't even know why you want to hang out with me. I'm just a jerk. But she's Frank, I can't tell you, man. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
That's wonderful. She sounds like a keeper.
Oh man, I'd kill for her.
That's one of the things I think. I mean, your story gave me goosebumps. Literally, I had chills. Just the importance of that. And you and I feel the same. I could just from our conversation, we feel the same on a lot of things. And that is just probably one of the most purest things I've heard, because people, I feel, always forget that the ability to do something like you're doing, especially when you're in a relationship, to have that support, I don't even know if something like that could be put into words.
Yeah, no, she's a miracle.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad you're doing well too. That's even more important than anything else. And then she's been by your side the whole time. I just love that. And we can lift the mood a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to get all emotional. So
I'm good.
Okay. But one of the things I want to think about, with just, hearing the story of your life. And that's one of the things I love about doing the podcast, is because the game store is an extension of you, and it comes from, everybody's story is so uniquely different that it really tells a story of your life in a way, from your love of gaming, from the D&D days to Magic, to the 2 jobs you had, to being able to open the store, to now, recovering like you did. And when you look, all that together is a lot. But then when you start to look now at the future with the focus you have for the store, knowing it's something that you want to do as the main focus, what is some of the things for Underhill Gaming that you're seeing for the future that you would like to do? And it can be grandiose too. It doesn't have to be something small.
Well, okay. The short-term goals are doing a remodel right now to double our retail space. So that's a big project, right? And that's taken a lot of time. And my wife's still supporting me through that too. And that's what's happening. Hopefully before Black Friday, that's what I'm shooting for. But after that, what I want to do is, we'll see what the Lord does. But maybe start a used bookstore because those are just gone now. I don't know about your area, but around here, there's not very many left. And I always love used books. So
Me too.
And then I have, I would say like an acre and a half of ground around the store that I want to hobbit up. I want to make it look like a hobbit village eventually is my long-term goal. So, and then probably add some more structure to that as I go. I'm getting old though, so I got to think about how my long-term goals affect my kids when I die. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to keep that in mind too. I don't want to saddle them with businesses they don't want to deal with. So that's also on my radar. But yeah, that's what I'd like to do within the next, I would say 5 years, maybe 10 would be my short on that. But or my long on that. But the immediate one is doing a massive remodel right now, actually. And that's going to hopefully happen by Black Friday and double the retail space. So I have product like on the floor right now as I'm getting ready for this. But it's exciting, and I think I'll do a grand reopening when it's done. I mean, it's that big of a remodel, so I think I'll do a grand reopening, and I'm going to expand my wargaming area and see if I can get some of these fringe. I want to try and support like the smaller wargaming companies and RPG companies. So like I just started carrying Shadow Dark for a smaller RPG, and the wargaming smaller ones I'm looking at, what's it called? Trench something. I can't remember. I just looked at it. But anyway, start looking at some of the smaller wargaming communities and see if we can get them in the shop. So.
I love it. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it too. Yeah, the renovating sounds awesome. I mean, I know there's a lot of manual labor involved in that, but seeing everything that you've done and went through in your life, I have no doubt in my mind, whatever you set your mind to, you're going to do.
Well, God willing, yes, hopefully.
And as we kind of wrap up here, Jason, this has been a blast. Probably one of my favorite interviews I've done thus far. And just before we sign off here, I wanted to give you the chance to any last final thoughts you wanted to share, where people could find out more about the store. I wanted to give you the floor here. Oh,
well, I think the first thing I would do is anybody that's interested in doing a gaming store, take it slow. Do it one step at a time. Don't go outside of what you can do, because a lot of gaming stores go out of business because they take too big of bites. Take small bites and just let it develop as you go financially. And then on Underhill, we have we're on Facebook, Underhill Gaming Idaho, Instagram, and then we are also on Shopify. Our web host is Shopify, so we have Underhill Gaming on there as well. And it's a great system. So there's lots of cool product on there. And if you're ever in Idaho, come to see Underhill Gaming. You'll see the store by the big round green Hobbit door is our front door. So
awesome. Well, Jason, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Frank. I really appreciate you. And I'll be praying for you for your podcast to be able to fulfill your dreams, man. That'd be awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot.
You bet.